you know, you've since retired from the Mongols MC.
Yeah, I left a year ago.
Okay. How have you found the things you love about the one percenter culture without all the politics?
It's been a blessing, man. I'm very grateful for the fact that I was very fortunate that when I stepped away, a group of guys stepped away with me. And so I didn't, you know, a lot of guys leave and they miss the brotherhood, or they don't still have, you know, the guys that are riding with and hanging out with. And I was super fortunate to still have that. And outside of the club world, I'd built a lot of friendships in a lot of different scenes, you know, my jiu-jitsu team and just people I knew from the punk rock and skinhead world. So I still had a lot of friends and support. So I didn't necessarily, that wasn't a negative in my life. And since then, things, not in saying anything bad about the club or whatever, but my life's been really positive. Things have been moving forward.
So that's one thing that I could say he did right, and this is where the learning lesson is at. I did this wrong, and this goes back to when I was gangbanging. When I was Crip, I did the same thing. When I joined something, I don't have time to like hang out with a million different circles of friends. So whoever I was cool with at the time, it was a little different for me, because at that time, I was hustling out of a town that was a little bit far from the Bronx, maybe an hour and a half away. Rockland County, shout to Rockland County. I got a lot of money out there, but it was a distance away from the Bronx, but I would hang out in the Bronx. So I was busy getting money all the time. And when I did hang out, I was hanging out with members that was, you know, gangbanging with me. And I didn't hang out with anybody outside of that. And what happens is, you isolate yourself. And I did this 2 times because I did it with the club. The first time when I was doing it with the gang, I got locked up. You know, the path that usually gang life leads you up to is doing time. So I wound up doing time. And then before you know it, my network changed when I came home. I was officially out of the life. A lot of things happened. I had a home invasion. There was a lot of disloyalty, betrayal. You know, I couldn't trust anybody anymore. So I moved on. And when that happened, I was isolated. My whole circle was the gang life. So once I did that, it was like I'm looking around and it's like I'm by myself. So if you're somebody, and I'm not telling anybody to join a gang or join a club, but if you're involved with something, if you have friends outside of it, friends at the gym, like he was saying, friends with his jiu-jitsu, stuff like that, keep those friends too, because you know what? 2 years from now, if you're no longer in that club or you're no longer in that circle, let's just say circle, you won't have access, and it's more life-changing. It really does suck. It feels like your whole world done switched up on you. You know what I mean? And you start realizing that certain people were just down with you because of what you had on, because of what you represented. But once that's over, there was no loyalty. And I'm not saying every club is like that. You might be in a club where there's some great brothers and they'll still be cool with you after. 9 times out of 10, people are just representing a certain color, and that's it. They don't really care about the people involved with it.
It's not really holding me back from doing what I want to do, and it's been a blessing. It's been really cool.
Yeah. And you started it, and I'm not even going to call it a motorcycle club. I call it more of a movement, you know, lift, train, ride, LTR. And it seems like you still can get the brotherhood, the camaraderie, the like-minded people you want around you without all the bullshit that goes around with it, right?
Definitely. And that's, you know, life's kind of just learning as you go, right? And then learning from those mistakes and not making them twice. So what we did with Lift, Train, Ride was a lot of what we liked from the motorcycle club world and from that scene, and leaving behind what we didn't. And we had, because we're just a small group of guys, we have that freedom that we could do that.
And you know, 99% of the people that join clubs, if they did something like this and just had a group of their close friends that just ride together, and maybe you wear the same stuff, but it's not club colors, you would be a lot better off, and you would have a lot happier life. It would be a lot tight-knit group, because when you're in a nation, it's hard to really have that brotherhood with everybody. And I'm not saying that clubs don't have it, but there's no way that you could be as close with somebody that lives in Texas as in your hometown if you live in Chicago or wherever you live at. You know, it's just, it's not possible. So for the people thinking about starting a motorcycle club, this shows that you don't really necessarily have to do the colors and check in and do all that stuff. You might could just, you know, wear the same hats or whatever, go for a ride. If you get too big, you'll have to check in. And a lot of people, you know, get down on that in the comments, and I understand. So I'm gonna explain to you why this is a problem. Let's say you got 100 members in your club and the 1% club in your area has 50. At any moment, you could go to a party, bump into their rival, become friends with them, and then guess what? Now that club has 100 rivals. in their town. So hopefully you understand why it's like that. It's not just a bully, we run the show thing, it's also to protect themselves.
So there's an example of the ability to have all the camaraderie. You still party, you still ride, you hold each other accountable, right?
Yeah.
Do you hold meetings? Are there dues? Are there club dues?
Yeah, we run it pretty similar. I mean, we still have officers' positions, but that's more for accountability than it is for like power and stuff. Because like our bylaws, everyone has to work out a minimum of 3 days a week, whether that's lifting weights or doing jiu-jitsu or some sort of fighting art. Everyone has to get together once a week, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a meeting. So whether it's a ride or we're barbecuing or we're all going to dinner together. So it's similar in those rules, but they're more tailored to what was fitting us and what was working better. You know, there's not a lot to talk about at meetings because we don't have politics or other stuff. So once a month, we'll sit down and decide maybe what ride we're going to do, or you know, where we're going to go, you know, what next run's going to be. But most of it is just us hanging out, riding motorcycles, working out, and, you know, trying to help each other.
Right. And how has the 1%er community reacted to the LTR movement?
I think it's been pretty positive for the most part from what I've heard. You know, we're not wearing patches really. We're not claiming areas. It's definitely not about, you know, territory or anything else. It's just a group of guys, like you said, holding each other accountable and trying to make them be the best version of themselves they can be. So it's holding each other accountable to positive stuff. So I don't think, outside of maybe seeing each other on events, there's not a lot of overlap. You know,
Right.
we don't go to the same types of bars they go to. We just really don't see them out and about.
Right. And isn't that ultimately what the whole thing is about? The motorcycle culture is about the brotherhood?
Yeah, and I definitely think that stepping away from it made me realize how far clubs have probably shifted from that over the years. Like, you know, that initial was just about riding motorcycles and partying and traveling together and being brothers, and that's what we all want, and that's what everyone says they want. But then when the politics get involved, things shift quite a bit, you know, and then there's so many other, there's just so much other stuff that goes on to it, where I think it's really easy to lose focus of the fact that we're here to spend time and enjoy time with each other.
Right. And, you know, I love the logo. It's cool, but I do notice that there's a diamond there. Is that a point of contention, or is that no big thing?
And it hasn't been. So when we started the club part of Lift Train Ride, because you said Lift Train Ride is more just kind of a movement. We didn't want to have a name for a club. We didn't want to really even call it a club. So when we came up, we wanted to have maybe a symbol. We were trying to think of something, you know, that represented what we did. And a lot of us were ex-1%ers. So I was talking to an artist friend I have to design something. I said, you know, I wanted to show, you know, we're 1%ers, which is the diamond, but we're ex-members, which is the X. But I didn't want it to look like it was an anti-1%er, like an X through it. And I think he did a great job. You know, it's kind of ambiguous, but it's still really cool. But we're happy with how it came out for sure. And so far, it hasn't been any issues, or at least not that I know of.
Yeah, no, it's super cool.
So if you're new to the culture, a diamond is something that you want to stay away from. They have a lot of time in. This is a different kind of situation. Let me know in the comments what you think. Shout to everybody that's been supporting the Ghostaveli Mask. You could get them at www.demonsroad.com.